From one of Australia's former leading homicide detectives, this is I Catch Killers with Gary Jubelin.
The second night was the first time I've seen a young bloke get raped. I've never seen anything like that, you know. It still troubles me now, and he was screaming. It's like all the other prisoners just turned a blind eye. For him to be laying there, people going to the bathroom just while he was still there crying.
I Catch Killers with Gary Jubelin.
Today, I had a conversation with Ian Muldoon. Ian's life was pretty normal until he went on a holiday to Cambodia to clear his head following relationship issues. But what occurred in the Cambodian bar in July 2023 changed his life in ways it's difficult to imagine. 10 days after that night, he was detained at Phnom Penh airport on his way home. That was the beginning of a 9-month nightmare, which still haunts him to this day. Ian spoke to me about the brutality of a third world prison system, lacking humanity and where life is cheap. On his first night in prison, he saw a prisoner gang raped, and that was just a precursor for what was going to happen to him. He knows he was lucky to survive. He was beaten countless times, stabbed and gang raped on several occasions. And you're in a Cambodian prison for 9 months for a relatively minor offence. At its most extreme, it was vandalism of an ATM machine. Conversations I've had with you, you told me during that 9-month period you saw 11 people die.
Yes.
In prison. You saw rapes, bashings.
Yes.
You were stabbed.
Yeah.
In an environment like that, did you think you were going to survive?
No, not at all. No, every day you thought, it could be your day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty horrific.
So you wake up there and how am I going to get through the day?
Yeah, and one day felt like a week or a month.
Yeah.
It was so full on.
Is that something you've ever experienced before? Have you ever been in prison or anything
never.
before?
No.
So this, I'm just trying to get a sense of it. You're just the average fella that's gone on a holiday in Cambodia and ended up in prison.
Yeah, basically.
Did it change your view on humanity?
Yes.
In what way?
A great deal. I saw things people did to other people that were inhumane. The amount of cruelty I saw, barbaric. Words can't really describe how totally those people had such disregard for people's lives. And it was very confronting.
Okay, I don't normally give a content warning on a podcast called I Catch Killers. I think people are pretty well aware of the type of things we're going to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But in the conversations I've had with you and when you've told me about your experiences and what I've learnt about your experiences, I think it's probably appropriate up front that I give a content warning here that what we're going to be discussing is pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to achieve by coming on the podcast and telling your story?
I just want people to be aware that, you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And it can quickly spiral into something that you just can't believe. The amount of trauma it's caused me, my family. I want people to be aware they've got to be very cautious about going to, foreign countries, especially Southeast Asian countries, in particular Cambodia.
Okay, well, I think when people hear what you've got to say and your story, it's a wake-up call for all of us to a degree that we take a lot of things for granted in this country. We haven't got it perfect with the justice system, but there is some justice that prevails. But you, in a foreign land, foreign rules, and what's the norm here doesn't apply over there.
No. I dare say it's a cakewalk here in comparison.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, well, hearing what you've told me, I'd have to agree with you. Let's find out a little bit about Ian Muldoon. the person before we take you over to Cambodia. Just describe yourself. How old are you, and what was your life before this?
51. Grew up in beautiful Manly. Lived my life basically on the beach, surfing and hanging around with my friends and having a good time, and having grow up and went to a good school and had a good education. Worked in hospitality for a while and worked in sales and marketing, and then decided I want to become a forklift driver.
Okay, we've all got dreams.
Yeah, it's just there was no stress there.
Yeah.
It was good times.
And that's what you were doing. That was your occupation when you, and so people understand too. It was in 2023 that you went on your holiday to Cambodia. But you were managing a forklift driving, or
yeah. I was working in a warehouse, and truck comes in, you load it up, truck goes out.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy work, and the money was good, so it was good. Sales and marketing can be stressful at times with your targets and things like that. So it was just a good career change.
Okay.
And I'm getting older, so
yeah. And you were coming off the back of a relationship as well at the time?
Yeah. My relationship kind of fell apart, and that's why I went overseas, just to try and give some space between the two of us and maybe reconcile later on down the track.
Yeah, well, you told me that you were at that point when you went overseas just to clear the air on the back of the relationship breaking down, but you had hopes that it might rekindle in some capacity.
Yeah.
And you had a child with that woman.
Yeah,
as well.
I did. Yeah, young boy.
Okay, so we're getting a sense of it, and it's the way I'd probably describe you are living a typical average life in Australia, enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Had you been in trouble with the law before?
Oh, just briefly, yeah.
What sort of stuff? Childhood stuff?
Childhood stupidity.
Yeah, we've all done that, I suppose. Had you ever done any time in prison or in juvenile detention centres or whatever?
No,
so
not at all.
Being in custody is something completely foreign to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to establish that because it's the world that you stepped into must have been so confronting on that many different levels. So tell us about the trip to Cambodia. What was the plans, dreams and aspirations flying over to Cambodia?
Well, I wasn't meant to go there. I was meant to go to Vietnam. And my ex-partner at the time, she was in Bali and said she wasn't ready to, see me yet.
Yep.
And then, I always wanted to go and see Angkor Wat. And she's, said the same thing. Why don't you go and do that?
The temples in Cambodia.
Yeah, in Siem Reap.
Yep.
So I decided that, I'd change my ticket.
Okay, that was a great decision.
Yeah, it was one of my best.
So how long was the holiday planned for?
18 days I was there for.
Yeah.
I had a 30-day visa, but I was only there for 18 days.
Okay, so and I think it was on the, from memory, 10th of July 2023, which was 2 days into your trip?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, and tell me about what happened on the night, the genesis of what dictated the rest of your life, or at least the next 12 months of your life. You went out for a drink. Yeah,
well, wasn't planning on going out for a drink. It was just I went into a bar just literally 100 metres down from my hotel.
Where is this? Is this in the capital city?
Yeah, Phnom Penh.
Yep.
Yeah, and went down there, ordered a beer, and honestly, my first biggest mistake was there was a cowbell there, and if you ring the cowbell, you buy a beer for everybody in the pub. Beers are very cheap.
Yep.
But so I was happy to do that. But I think in doing that, there's a couple of blokes there that have clocked me going, rich foreigner. And then I had one Jack Daniels and Coke. Second mistake was to leave that on the table and go to the bathroom. I came back and I had a few more sips out of that, and then basically got the a really bad migraine headache, and I don't get migraines. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever had any, or one maybe, you know. And then blurred vision. I was unsteady on my feet, and I went to pay for the bar tab. And because I'd only just gotten there, I was still trying to negotiate what monies and what, and American dollars and things into Khmer real.
Yeah.
And the barmaid, the owner, which was the barmaid, she said, "Oh, you don't have enough, but there's an ATM just down there, a couple of doors down."
What time of night was that?
It's a while ago now. It's not that late.
Yeah.
You know. Again, just 2 drinks, and then by the time I walked down to that ATM, it was like I'd been drinking all night. And then 2 guys followed me out of the bar. I walked into the ATM and I tried to put my card in about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And by that stage, I was so incoherent and fell forward. And with one hand protected my face, and the other hand just cracked the glass on the ATM. And then walked out of there, and those 2 fellas followed me to my hotel room, which was literally another, 50 yards down the road or 50 metres down the road.
Yeah.
I walked in there and they stopped. And then I got myself, or I don't know whether I got myself up to the room or someone helped me up to the room, but I woke up the next day very groggy, still unsteady on my feet, that bit of a brain fog, but I still remembered something about the bar and owing money at the bar.
Because you hadn't paid for the drinks.
I hadn't
you
paid
shouted
for the
all
drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got money out of the safe, walked past where the incident happened, the Smile Mart there, and to the bar and paid the bar lady. And then, that was it. Nothing else was said.
Okay, so the Smile Mart you're talking about, it's like the convenience stores where they've got the ATM.
Yeah, that's
like you
yeah,
see.
Yeah.
I've got some photos here that I think were in the Kaima Times, the local paper there. And I'm just looking at it. It's a podcast, but describing it, I can see on one of the shots they've got the photo of you looking into the ATM machine, and then they've got a picture of the damage to the glass of the ATM machine. And that's your sort of recollection of what happened on the night.
Yeah,
from the photos.
Yeah,
that's
just from
obviously
the photos,
obviously you. And okay, so what we're talking here is a damaged ATM machine, and I just want to understand, because what followed on from this, trying to get a sense of the actions that were taken against you. You went back to the bar the following day.
Yep.
You paid the money.
Money.
Got money from the safe at your hotel.
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
I spent another couple of days there, and then I went up to Battambang. And then from I spent 5 days in Battambang.
What's that?
It's about 6 hour. Oh, no, not that long. It's about a 3 hour drive maybe, just in a car that picked me up from the hotel, and then from there I got a boat ride up to Siem Reap.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just continued on your holiday.
Yeah. There was nothing said by the owner of the bar, nothing said by the people who owned the Smile Mart. There was nothing. So.
Did you have any thoughts that what happened at the ATM machine was going to come back to bite?
No, because I initially I was just protecting myself, and then when my hand hit, I didn't think anything of it because I was that, like I don't know, under duress, I guess.
Did okay, so you've carried on your holidays. I think you stayed another 10, 13 days or something like that.
Another 10 days, I think it was.
You'd already had your flights pre-booked, so you went on the flight that you're intending to, that you booked with your holidays, so you didn't change your flights or try to flee the country or...
No, not at all. They said that, though. I was trying to flee the country.
But this was pre-booked flights, and the flight that you were scheduled to
That's right.
catch.
Yeah, back to Australia, or back to Thailand first, then Australia.
Okay, I'm probably I'm falling in the cop mode here, and I'm just thinking, okay, well, there was no effort to flee the crime scene. You haven't done it. I think you're not trying to escape.
No.
Okay, you go to the airport. Which airport was it?
Well, they've got a new one now, but it was the international airport at Siem Reap.
Okay, and what happened there?
I put my luggage on. That went onto the plane. I walked through to customs and they handed over my passport, and then the customs agent said, "Oh, you've got a black mark against your name, a black flag." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's saying, "Oh, we'll just have to wait here for a minute." And then from that, I was escorted to, the immigration office.
Yep.
And they'd taken my passport, and I was sitting there not knowing what was going on, and there was all these customs agents and immigration people in the room with me and asking me all these questions. And then the only time I've ever seen the footage from the Smile Mart was one police officer there had it on his phone.
Right.
And then when that was meant to be brought up in court, that had disappeared. And that clearly showed the two guys on the outside, the two dark figures on the outside of the Smile Mart.
Okay, so you're in there. When is that when you realised what you were being detained for? Did you realise it was to do with the ATM machine?
They said, that I'd damaged the ATM machine, yeah.
And did you speak the local language?
No, not at all.
So this was communicated to you by someone?
Yeah, in Pidgin English.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't speak Khmer, so.
When did you realise this was something unusual? Like, did you have concerns you were going to miss your flight?
Well, they said if I missed my flight, they'd pay for another one. But then they told me that there was 4 police officers driving up from Phnom Penh. That's a 6-hour drive. And then when they start taking photos of me with a board, behind me with all the drug busts and, of cocaine and ecstasy and things like that, I knew from then on in it was going to be tough for me.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be just a easy get you out of there.
No.
So, what happened then? Were you put into custody, or were you allowed to leave the police station, or?
No. So they basically once I was there, I was asking for my passport back. I don't understand what's going on. I want to speak to the Australian Embassy. They wouldn't let me do that. They'd had my phone. They'd taken everything from me. And then we waited, and I just kept on asking questions, and they just kept on either saying they don't understand or wait for the police officers to come from Siem Reap. From Phnom Penh.
Okay, so you're sitting there. Are you in a cell?
No, I'm in the customs and the immigration office there. Yeah, okay. in the airport.
At the airport.
Yeah.
What happened after that? Okay,
so then, when the police officers come, they handcuff me, and saying that this case needs to be. You need to go back to Phnom Penh to do this case. Now, I was handcuffed and led through a packed airport with, families and kids, with guys with machine guns, immigration officers, custom agents, you name it, like as if I was some kind of drug baron or terrorist. And I could see people pointing, going, what's going on here, And they said to me, don't make a scene. And then they put me into the four-wheel drive police car and drove me back down to Phnom Penh, to the police station there.
A 6-hour drive?
Yeah. No food, no water, nothing.
Okay, this was on the 23rd of...
The same day I was flying out.
Okay, 23rd of July, 2023.
Yeah.
You get to the police station.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
I'm just put in a cell straight away. Any time I requested to speak to my ex-partner, the Australian Embassy, anybody, oh, we don't have internet connection, or we don't understand what you're saying. It was only the next day, I think, or the day after,
Yep.
when then they drug tested me for pretty much every drug, which was a negative result. And I was talking to the police captain there through a translator. But he was getting me to, like, which happened many times whilst being incarcerated over there, forms that were written in Khmer, where I then had to thumbprint in red ink and sign my name, not knowing what I was signing whatsoever.
Right, you sent me some of those documents, and I went through them, and I see that red thumbprint. That's what you're talking about. Okay, so you've been detained. You've kept at the airport until the police come up for they're driving all the way up 6 hours, then you're driving back 6 hours. So we're looking at sort of 24 hours you've been in custody.
Yeah, that's right.
At that point in time, because I think, and part of the basis of you coming on the podcast, you wanted to warn people of the dangers of certain situations you can find yourself in a foreign country. I would assume that an Australian citizen arrest, you'd be able to make a phone call and you'd be onto the embassy straight away, or at least be able to make a phone call home. But you weren't provided with that opportunity.
No, not at all. That was the scariest thing, that you
could just disappear.
100%. That's my point. I was there for 3 days before I got any contact with anyone outside.
Yeah.
You know, if I'd have died in that cell, I would have been just buried somewhere.
It looks like, and I'm only basing this on the fact that part of the research I did, I found that newspaper article. And that newspaper article was published on the 24/7. So that's a day after. So while you're in there, you haven't made any calls to anyone, and it's in the paper with photos of you. And the way they describe that, and I won't read the whole article out, but it just finished off with: the suspect is currently being questioned by competent authorities to proceed with the procedure. There might be a little bit lost in translation there, but it looks like they're skiting about or promoting the fact that they've arrested you, and then photos of the damaged ATM in the paper. Boy, not a good situation. And if I'm sitting here smiling, it's just, I'm thinking it could happen. Potentially could happen to anyone. Situation like that.
I'm smiling too, but you either laugh or you cry, and I've done my crying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's such a hard that's when you know you're in trouble. You know.
So 3 days in the police station, you haven't spoken to anyone. What was the accommodation like? Food like? Cells like?
Just a floor with bars around it, with a toilet. No food, one bottle of water. I was using a loaf of bread that they gave me, an uncut loaf of bread, as my pillow, because I was laying on a floor, that just rock hard floor.
And was anyone explaining what was going to happen to you?
No, not at all, not at all.
Because I can only imagine the frustration that being caught up in a situation like that, and you'd feel, I think, so helpless.
Yeah, powerless as well. Yeah, it's one of those things that, you can't fathom, because and I found out later that some of them could speak English in the police station. They just chose not to. Particularly one guy, when he knew where I was going and he told me where I was headed. Yeah, there was a wry smile on his face.
As in when he knew you were going to the prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to court a couple of times prior to going to prison too.
What happened in the court appearances? Okay,
so then you'll be taken underground, and it'd just be cell after cell, and there must have been about 50, 60, 70 people in a cell, squashed up against the bars, all trying to get some lawyer to help them out. Most of them Cambodians. There was a few foreigners, but most of them Cambodians. And the heat down there was pretty hot, you know. And then you'd go upstairs, speak to the judge, no translator, and you'd go back downstairs, go back into the cell, and they'd pick you up, take you back into the police station. That happened a couple of times. And then the same guy had the wry smile on his face, said to me, he goes, well, we're not a detention centre. And then he was the one who drove me down to the prison.
Okay, so how many days after your arrest was this?
I think it's hard to remember, but I think it's about 3, 4, 5 days maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And had you had any communication with any representative from the Australian Embassy or your family at that stage?
I'd spoken to my ex-partner once, and then I informed her to get in contact with the Australian Embassy.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as possible. And I'm in a pretty bad spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was your point of contact, your ex-partner?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, not in a good situation, Ian, and I'm just trying to imagine you'd be screaming from the rooftops within your head, but I would imagine it's pretty intimidating in an environment like that.
Well, that's just a police station.
Okay, right, that was yeah.
You start to think about the enormity about what's going to happen or what's going on. There's a lot of thoughts that go around in your head about, you know, something mentioned before about you watch these shows on TV thinking, oh, you wouldn't want to
banged up abroad type.
Yeah, you
shows.
wouldn't want to be. You wouldn't want to be in that situation, and here I am.
Yeah,
you know, it was surreal.
Food, water at the time you're in the police station?
No, just a bottle of water. I had a little bit of money. There was one night the bloke went out and got me a duck egg and some rice, but I had to buy him. I gave him the money and didn't give me anything back. You know?
That was the currency of the detention.
Yeah.
Okay, the prison. And I apologise up front what we're going to talk about, because I know your experience in prison was, I think it's best described as horrific. But you've considered it and you want to talk about what occurred in the prison. Yeah, so describe the prison to me when you were taken to the prison.
Okay, so he dropped me off in the police car. You walk in, it's like these big gates, huge gates. When those gates open, it's like you've walked into a medieval town. Mm. There's laneways, and the smell hits you. That's the first thing. And the heat. Because as soon as you go in with the other prisoners that are going in, they shut those big gates, and then you come to a set of tables. They take everything that they want off you, and then they strip you down. They chuck this powder on you. They give you an orange pair of pants and an orange shirt. And I was walking around bare feet for about a week and a half. Yeah. And then I remember walking through, and I was the only foreigner at this time walking through with all the other Cambodians, and just, there's guys with rickshaws that they'd made inside the prison full of rubbish, and they're poking it with metal spikes to see if there's no one in there trying to escape. There's animals around, and there's things, like rats and things, and just people looking at you, pointing, and they're all smiling, and they've got this blank look on their face.
Can't read what they're thinking.
No, and that's quite daunting. But you got to understand too, this prison, the walls are that high that no air gets in there. There's police officers in towers with rifles. And it's like they're in sections, blocks, and then all these laneways that run through these blocks, like a maze almost, where you'd stay. That'd be one block here, say A block and B block and so on, but all these other laneways and to get to other areas and to the phones, to the one shop that they had, or to the park. They had a park there. We can go into that a bit later.
So that first, let's break it down to the first 24 hours. You go in there, you're processed, as in stripped naked.
Yeah. It's almost deloused, I guess you'd call it.
Throw the white powder all over you and whatever. Then you get dumped in a cell.
Well, you get dumped into, there's 3 cells.
Yeah.
And there's about 50 people in one cell.
Yeah.
And it's probably twice the size of this room.
Okay, so we're talking roughly 3 metres by 3 metres in this room.
Yeah.
So
And a little toilet at the back.
Yeah.
And that's just, they put you in those ones first to see if you've got anything like COVID and what have you.
Yeah.
And then they'll take you out. I think they'll shave your head then. I think it's the second day they shave
Everyone's
your head.
head was shaved?
Yeah, for the head lice and stuff like that. The second night I was there, because I was so like hypersensitive and my anxiety levels were jacked through the roof. I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for days. Couldn't eat.
You'd be a strange bloke if you could just lay down and sleep.
Oh, you know, like I found a bit of wall, and that was the second night. Was the first time I seen a young bloke get raped.
Yeah, that's and this is just touching on the brutality of it. You wrote that in the document you prepared, and just so if I refer to the document, that was part of it. It was almost cathartic for you to write down. And
that's not about me. That's the about another guy I saw.
No, the first time that you saw someone raped. I'm talking the document as such.
Okay,
that putting down your thoughts about your experiences. But this is where what you've just raised about the first time that you experienced someone being raped in prison. I'll just read it out and then get you to reflect on it and comment on it after that. On the second night was the first time I saw my first rape. It was about 1 a.m. I heard this young boy in the shower with 2 other bigger Cambodians. He was screaming. It's a sound that stays with me for days. I didn't want to fall asleep in case it was me next. After they had finished with him, he laid in the shower for hours crying. People would use the toilet still, pissing and shitting right where he was laying. This was the first taste of how inhumane life was in prison. Things were a lot worse after this. So seeing something like that, it talked me through the experience of...
it's just so confronting. I've never seen anything like that, you know. It still troubles me now, because as soon as we read that, as soon as I start thinking about that, I can see it so clearly in my mind. And he was screaming, you know, and it's like all the other prisoners just turned a blind eye, you know, and then, you know, for him to be laying there, people going to the bathroom just while he was still there crying. And the bathroom is filthy. You wouldn't lay down on that floor, you know.
Yeah.
You try and avoid it as much as you can. It's disgusting, you know. And you know, no one seemed to blink an eyelid or bat an eyelid, you know.
Do guards step in?
No, not at all. No, they're off probably drinking somewhere, you know. Yeah. There's always a captain of each room as well.
Captain as in an inmate.
Yeah, an inmate who runs the room. Yeah. And he always turns a blind eye usually.
Yeah.
Unless he's losing money over something. Because you know he'll sell the cigarettes in there and whatever else he can get his hands on, and so if you came in with a bottle of water and you didn't buy it from him, he'd take it from you.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the second night was just like, what have I got myself into here?
And you had no option to raise it or call out, or there's no one you could call out to. Or...
That was the toughest thing,
is
to watch something like that happen in front of you and not be able to do anything because you fear that you were next.
Yeah.
And that, you know, like, it's concerning to me because I would be one of those people that would, you know, like help someone.
Step in.
Yeah. But you just can't.
Yeah.
And again, it still troubles me to hear. I can still hear those screams.
I don't think you should be too hard on yourself. You found yourself in an impossible situation, and I don't know anyone would step in that. It's that when humanity is stripped away that way, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah. But you weren't brought up that way, you know. You're brought up to look after your fellow man.
Yeah. You're
a human being, you know. It's I don't know if the word's deplorable, but it's just words can't describe what happened in that prison. It's tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. When was the first time you got to speak to a representative, a consular assistant or officer or someone from the embassy?
That's a good question. It would have been weeks, maybe. 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I think.
Mm.
Like, I'm not 100% sure on that. That's because I got moved around as well, and it was hard to get to see them unless they like, I couldn't call them at that stage.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask anyone to get them to come. They'd have to make a decision to come and see me. They were aware that I was in prison because of my ex-partner informing them. But I think it might have been 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I think, before I saw a person from the embassy.
Did that, seeing someone from the embassy, did you think, okay, here it is, this situation's going to be resolved and I'm going to be out of here? Was that your initial hopes or thoughts?
Yeah, of course. You think, okay, well, I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Surely they can understand that and see that, and let's get me out of here, you know?
Yeah.
I've seen enough already.
And you would be putting your mind from here, local laws and all that, and justice and fair play, and thinking, how the hell have I ended up in here, I would imagine.
Yeah. Like, if that had happened in your down at your local area, you'd probably just get a bill for the glass.
Well,
or, I don't know. I've never done it.
The short title of the offence over here would be malicious damage to property, like vandalism.
Yeah.
That's the extent of it. And in my police career, I've never seen, or it's very rare to see anyone held in custody over an offence of that nature.
I was drugged too. I wasn't like I was going out to destroy an ATM.
I'm just trying to get a sense, and I think everyone would, because, as you said, people talk about it like it's a movie. It's something like you see on TV. You can't imagine that you'd be caught up in that environment. But, yeah, 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks, we talked about the first 24 hours. What was your day-to-day? How did you survive?
I don't know. It was, first of all, there was no room to strut around.
Yeah.
No room at all. In those cells for the first few days, they're that packed full of people.
What are we talking? How many people?
I think, like I said, about 50 or so people. It's a very small room.
Yeah.
Maybe more, because people would just keep coming in.
Yeah.
And it gets so full they'd have to move them to the next cell. But you're only there in those cells for 2 or 3 days, and then you get moved to somewhere bigger.
Okay.
But I just kept my back to the wall and kept my eye on everyone. I didn't sleep for those days at all.
The first 3 days?
No. I think I didn't eat, and someone gave me a bottle of water, and that lasted me a few days too.
Okay. And it didn't eat, there was no opportunity to eat, or you just couldn't stomach the food that was being served up?
They didn't really serve too much food, just some rice and stuff. And I was just at that stage. I don't think it was the decision not to eat. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And in those cells too, you don't get let out. You're in there 24 hours.
Right.
There's no going out and having to walk around. So you're basically sitting up against a wall for 24 hours a day.
Was there room to lay down and sleep? Or?
No, not in that cell, no. No, not at all.
Not enough room for everyone to lay down?
No. You're doing well if you've got a wall to lean up against.
Okay.
People are lying on top of each other. They've got their cuddling each other. You know, there's all sorts going on.
Okay, 3 days in there.
Mm.
Can it get any worse?
Yes.
Where do they move you from
To
there?
okay, so that I went into K3.
Yep.
So this building is basically, it looks like a big chicken coop. So K1, K2, K3, K4, and an aluminium roof, one fan in each. Big pots where they cook on the floor with the rice and the boiling water. And there's 400 in a cell, 400 in each.
Yeah.
The heat in there, like...
What are we talking the size of the cell for 400 people to be in there? Let's picture an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
No.
Let's say a quarter of an Olympic-sized swimming pool with 400 people in there.
Yeah. And they're renting out, the captain in there is renting out the wall space. So that was $40 American a month to lean up against a wall. And then you got the only fresh water that they had, that was your VIP.
And did you have money in there? Did you have cash in there?
Not at that time, no.
So you had nothing to barter with?
No, that's why I wasn't eating as well.
Was anyone in there, any foreigners or anyone that spoke English?
In my cell, K3, there was an Indian guy and a Nigerian guy.
Yeah.
But they kind of kept to themselves. The Nigerian guy, admittedly, when I first walked in, he's come over here and I sat with him.
Yeah.
Because there's, 390 odd Cambodians all looking at you, going through your stuff. I'll take that. I'll grab this, and yeah. And the heat, like the heat in there was unbearable. It was like, I don't know, shaking hands with the devil. Like it's, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. It's pushing 40 degrees and the humidity is up past 90%. You when you're awake, you can't move. When you sit up and that's it. You're sitting cross-legged. There's a bloke here cross-legged, guy in front of you cross-legged, guy here cross-legged. When you're sleeping like sardines.
Like literally
sardines.
Back, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, unfortunately, I got put over where those pots were taken off.
The cooking pots.
Yeah, so I was on that floor there, which was even hotter. But you're just sweating profusely the whole time.
Yeah.
And, obviously, for me, not understanding the language, you don't know what they're saying.
How long did you spend in those cells?
3 months, maybe a bit more than 3 months, just under.
Did they let you out at any time?
Yeah,
to exercise or
that was the 2 hours, 1 hour, so you're in 21 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, but you just go downstairs and that was it. It was a basketball court, no basketball, but just like a tennis court size area for people to, walk around and.
Did you just keep to yourself or did you communicate with anyone?
Well, I tried to communicate with the Nigerian guy because he could speak a bit of Khmer.
Yeah.
So he was the one who first got me out the gate to get to the phones the first time. He could say enough to the guard to get me out to get to speak to someone on the phone, so.
Okay. Now, when that consular assistant turned up, what did they offer you or what did they...
Well, they just said they were trying to do everything they can.
Did they give you any hope?
Yeah, they did at first. They said, well, we're doing everything we can. We haven't really done anything wrong. We should be able to get you out of here. And looking back in it, I was, okay, all right. And then they'd leave a little hand soap and a bit of toothpaste, and it looked like it'd been taken from a motel room. All of it, like tiny, the tiny ones that you get.
That was your care package.
Yeah. One time I got chocolate, and then that was stopped.
Yeah. Did you tell them about your concerns with the violence and all that?
Yeah, of course. And the conditions and things like that. I mentioned that numerous times to them.
Your general health in an environment like that, you're describing living in an unhygienic sauna with food that wouldn't be the normal food for your stomach. How were you surviving health-wise?
Oh, it just started deteriorating, you know.
Yeah.
My skin was getting worse and worse. I was losing weight rapidly. You know, you just feel nauseous all the time. You're mentally fatigued. Like I said before, a day feels like a week or a month in there because you're constantly so hypervigilant. Your anxiety's so high and you're just constantly looking around to see what's coming at you. And it's coming at you all the time. If it's not coming from someone over here, it's coming from someone trying to do a shifty on you over here. Someone's trying to get something. And that does, you know, you're in, and you start seeing yourself going into depression because of your situation quite early on, you know, or you go into yourself, and you'd see it with other foreigners as well, or you'd see it in Cambodians too, to be fair. You just see people get worse and worse, and it makes them ill. There were some tough times in K3.
Yeah. And that depression, and you giving up hope. Were you at the point where not being there was a better option?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. The only thing that kept me going was my son.
Okay.
And if it wasn't for him, I dare say, and my ex-partner sending money, if she didn't send that money, I wouldn't be talking to you now, Gary.
Yeah, that's it.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
If you don't have money in that prison, you're dead as Dillinger.
Yeah. How old was your son at the time?
4.
Okay, so that sort of kept you alive.
Yeah.
Where did your son think you were in the 12 months or so you were away?
Well, he was told, and when I spoke to him, I just told him I was stuck in as he put it, an aeroport.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And being 4.
Yeah.
You know, but he just wondered where I was and when I was coming home, and I was like, oh, I'm still stuck here, mate, but I'll be home soon.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I could tell him. And you know, I mean, I had my 50th birthday in there.
Jesus.
Yeah,
okay,
Christmas as well, and all that other stuff.
Okay, that's a different type of 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate?
No, not at all. And the bad thing about it was I was on the phone talking to her, saying, "Oh, the lawyer's saying I'm going to be out before my 50th birthday," and that didn't happen. And then she's like, "Oh, there was a bit of a stuff up in the paperwork. Look, you're going to be getting out at Christmas time." So I'm there telling my son and my ex-partner, I'll be home for Christmas. I can see my son, you know, it's going to be great. Comes to, you know, Christmas time, doesn't happen. His birthday's on January 10. I'll be there for his birthday. Doesn't happen. It's setback after setback, and that just makes you feel horrible, and it really knocks you about, that kind of stuff. And they do that. They grind you down.
Yeah.
They grind you down like, I don't know if I mentioned to you when we were speaking before, but they used to play this music every morning.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Music. Yeah.
It was in Khmer, and it was some kind of brainwashing. Like, guys were screaming, going, "Stop this, stop this, stop this," you know, like foreigners.
Yeah.
And it would start at 4 a.m. and wouldn't stop till you were let out of your cells. And that was every morning. And it was breaking people mentally. I mean, I know I've jumped around a little bit there, but well, again, going back to K3, they were scary times.
Did you find, was there any time where you felt peace, or was it just 24/7?
No, there was never a peaceful moment. Maybe a couple of times in the park.
Yeah.
With the other foreigners, because the foreigners who could get to the park, kind of stuck together, and a lot of them are hard done by, and a lot of them are cash cows.
Yeah.
So they've got no chance of kind of getting out because they just keep taking money from them and run it like a business. Sorry.
No, I hear what you're saying, and it might seem bizarre that we're looking at that way or discussing it, but the way you explained to me, like, if they're getting money from you, everyone wants a piece of the money you've got because you're the rich foreigner. The longer they keep you in there, everyone benefits.
And you're spending money at the shops, and
Yep.
you're bribing every police officer and guard to get through to another section
Yeah.
every time, you know?
Yeah, you said that, or it was in what you wrote down, that to get from one yard to another, it was basically you had to hand over cash.
Yeah. 50,000 real, which is $12.50 American.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just put it in his pocket. Some guards, sometimes they'd take a couple of cigarettes and a
Yep.
bottle of water, depending on how their day was going. But a lot of them, they just take the money. And if you give them 20,000 real, they get angry at you
Right.
because it wasn't enough, you know?
What was the attitude of the guards?
Oh, brutality.
Yeah.
They're again, that stone face look. I hate to say this, but evil. A
Yeah.
look of evil and cruelty. And they have, they don't get paid a lot of money, but they've got a bit of power. So they really flex that,
Yeah.
that power. And you've got to understand too, some of the senior guys there, the top guys, they're ex-Khmer Rouge. And if you know anything about them, life means nothing to them.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I hadn't considered that, but the brutality of the takeover and what occurred in that country, and you're looking at people that experienced that. So there's a level of brutality that we couldn't even comprehend. It was almost like a genocide that was going on there.
Well, there was prisoners in there who were running military, what would you call them, military operations that were Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
Guys running the prison, what was his, Mr. Pilar, ex-Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
And, you didn't even want to look at this guy the wrong way. Like, when they came past those more senior guys, you had to get down on your knees and bow, Otherwise, mate, I couldn't imagine what problems you would have,
Yeah.
But,
Well, look, we're going to we'll finish here for part one, and trust me when I say this, we've only just touched on the surface. But I just and we're going to talk about we're talking about you being gang raped, we're talking about you being stabbed, brutalities, watching someone being bashed to death, all the things that you've encountered during your experience. But I just wanted to get first up, talking to you now, just get a sense of who you were before you went in there, and how you survived. Because what we're talking about here, it's just horrific.
Yeah. I've always been pretty resilient. I mean, my childhood wasn't the best. My father wasn't a great father. So I think from a young age, I learnt to deal with that kind of side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not that kind of person, So to be thrown into that, I just had to keep telling myself, we can get through this. We can get through this. It was almost like a mantra.
Yeah.
Some days I'd be walking up and down the yard just to try and keep fit. When I got moved to the hospital, because there was a bit more room, you could go to the park. I'm getting out soon. I'm going to see my son. I just repeated over and over in my head. That was
your mantra.
Yeah. And that'd kind of block out all the noise and stuff for a while, at least for an hour or so, And I'd just keep walking, up and down, almost like a caged animal. But I was doing it because I wanted to stay relatively healthy.
Yeah. And
just, if you're doing something, they kind of leave you alone sometimes. Other times they wouldn't, but if you just,
look like you got purpose.
Yeah. There's a couple of Chinese blokes would be exercising too, and a few others as well. Like they were kind of left alone occasionally.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Ian. We'll take a break, and when we come back to part two, we'll delve deeper into it and how you actually got out of the prison as well.
Sure.
Which is, even that was complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You got a flogging on the way to the airport.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, we'll be back soon.
Right.